Millennials are the cheapest of any generation when it comes to tipping, survey says. Millennials are the worst tippers in America, according to a new survey. The Me generation is the most likely to stiff servers, with 10% reporting that they routinely leave no tip, compared to just 3% of older Americans. When they do reward good service, nearly 1 in 3 millennials leaves less than 15% at restaurants, and 1 in 6 report that they choose the lowest amount when choosing between suggested tipping options, according to the survey of 1,000 people by creditcards.com. Among diners aged 38 and older, 51% say that they normally tip at least 20% at restaurants, while only 36% of millennials are that generous. People find that tipping is one of the most stressful and confusing aspects of etiquette today, said Julie Sherrier, senior editor. It's just kind of tricky and awkward because there's no set standard. In fact, more than a quarter, 27%, of people age 18-37 would prefer to pay higher prices in order to avoid tipping completely. Generation Xers feel the same, with 25% reporting they would rather ditch the tip in favor of a more costly meal, compared to just 13% of baby boomers. In addition, 25% of people with incomes of $75,000 or more and 30% of college graduates are in favor of paying more to do away with tipping. Despite that, only 21% of Americans, overall, support that idea. Experts at creditcards.com said the reason behind what appears to be millennial cheapness could be more nuanced. In other words, millennials make less money than their older counterparts. Income predicts tipping, says Michael Lynn, a tipping expert at Cornell University's School of Hotel Administration. Older people really prefer tipping. Adults age 70 or older are the most likely to leave 20% tips, and they're also the most likely to pick the highest tip amount when presented with a range of options. Many workers rely on tips to generate a large portion of their income, said Matt Schultz, a senior industry analyst for creditcards.com. To them, it's not just about etiquette. It's about being able to provide for their families and put food on their own tables. Men are also less generous than women when it comes to tipping, with more than 46% of the ladies tipping 20%, compared to just under 37% of men. Also more likely to spend less on tipping are Southerners, parents with young children and the less educated. People from the southern states are the least likely, less than 38%, of any region to tip 20%, compared to 47% of people in the Northeast, 48.5% of Midwesterners and just 38.2% of Westerners. People from the South were also the most likely, 7%, to leave no tip. About 45% of the childless tip 20%, on average, compared to less than 34% of moms and dads. Those with a high school education or less are the least likely to tip 20%, with only 32% of those respondents reporting that is their average gratuity. Compare that to those with some college, 42%, and those with a college degree or more, 53%. Overall, nearly 42% of Americans tip 20% when leaving a gratuity at a restaurant.